Good afternoon. This is Media Center, Ukraine, Odesa. We're starting today. We are going to have several briefings today. You can watch us on YouTube or on Facebook, and you can also ask questions online through messengers. You can just scan the QR code that you can now see on the screen. Our first briefing today is dedicated to consequences of the hurricane in Odessa and the region. We were supposed to have more speakers today, but only two of them has arrived, namely Olexander Krytsky, the deputy head of the State Emergency Service in the Odessa Oblast, and Vladyslav Balinsky, ecologist, head of the NGO Zeleny List, Green Leaf. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for your invitation. The situation in the Odessa region is expected. Everyone was warned about the severe weather conditions and the wind up to 30 meters per second, snow and blazes, and all those units that are usually involved in dealing with the consequences of emergencies were properly informed. Unfortunately, citizens neglected the warnings not to use the local and international motorways. That resulted in heavy traffic almost on all roads, because these severe weather conditions were seen not only in the Odessa region but in other regions of Ukraine. And different parties were involved in dealing with the consequences, even the National Guard and the armed forces of Ukraine. The work is ongoing because the weather is still bad and the flow of vehicles never ends. Now I'd like to give floor to Vladyslav Balinsky. As far as I know, there are no limitations as for use of the motorways in the region, but we will come back to this later. Vladyslav, how does that hurricane affected the ecology of the region, including the Tuzly Limani area? And we had hurricane and the storm before on the 18th of November, and he was very powerful. And just leading to the expanded opening between Tuzla, Limans, and the sea. This is a well-known problem that the National Natural Park, the administration, could not perform its duties and solve the issue from the legal and formal point of view with the officials in terms of the building fortifications needed. So you mean now that Limans are connected with the sea? Yes. The wind was very powerful, raising the level of the sea near that part of the coastline. And now the Limans are connected to the sea and are filled with the sea water. But we don't know and how long will it take, because these are natural processes, they are temporary, and if the wind changes, the Gulf will be closed. And the ecologists believe that this Gulf is needed to solve the problem with the Limans and the water there. Yes, you're right. This is a very significant problem, and the greater aridization of our region. That's why all sea lemons or estuaries witness the lack of fresh water, and the seawater that can fill in these biological systems is the source of life for these water basins. And the Natural Park has seen that problem for quite a long time, because the artificial gulf constructed by poachers that was needed for the commercial fishery. But then the owners stopped maintaining that gulf, and leading to the lemons losing water. We will come back to the results of the new storm. And actually, I should have started from that, because several people were killed during this storm, or during the hurricane. Some people were injured, and perhaps you can share with us the details of those lethal cases and the reasons. Yes, unfortunately, people died during the hurricane. There are different reasons, like fallen trees. There are people injured. At the moment, we know about 5 killed persons, including 3 people because of cold. And there are 15 persons injured by the falling trees. So now it's seen that 3 persons were killed because of hypothermia, and several people injured because of the fallen trees. We're still clarifying the situation. Yes, and unfortunately, the severe weather conditions not only in the disruption of traffic connections, but also in injuries and deaths of people. According to the mass media information, several people were just homeless people. As far as I remember, last year, the invincibility points were closed for that. Are they open? They have started working beforehand, and there is information was disseminated. Because and people are not aware of those whereabouts of that places, invincibility points for warming up or for heating. But this is an interactive map, and not all citizens have access to it. There are 55 invincibility points on the basis of the State Emergency Service, and those big stands on Kulikova Pole near the railway stations, but this is more for warming up, and we also have 12 stands. And there are 9 fixed such centers and 3 camps. Yesterday, and I tried to understand the situation, because the location now is different. And that was the information, and for the second year, these invincibility points work at new places. And one more question to you about the emergency situation before we come to the environmental issues. There have been a lot of information in mass media about the buses stuck near Mayaki, Palanki, Belaevka, perhaps in the north of the city of the region, but I have not seen such information. How many people were stuck, and how much time did it take for you and for other governmental and of the services to bring people back to their homes? And luckily, we were supported by volunteers, and those who had more powerful vehicles were involved in the process, and the state emergency service units evacuated people from buses that were stuck in motorway. One of the buses that was found in the 30th kilometer. And near the settlement Petrodolina, there were 93 persons stuck in the bus, and that was the second bus. And in the first bus, there were around 50 people, but when we arrived, 40 people had been taken already, and we evacuated 53 people, and it took us around 24 hours. And there are no other people stuck in the roads, in the motorways, no. And that was around. It took around like 50 hours, around 10 hours to travel to Starokazachye. Let's come back to the environmental issues. You said that a base, that gulf, was created by the previous hurricane, connecting Liman and the sea. What are the consequences of the latest storm? Because it was stronger and it took longer because it continued this night. Yes, this storm was stronger, but the wind changed. It became more western nature, and affecting the western coastline of Crimea Peninsula, and we saw that in media. But the Gulf was not closed, leading to the fact that more seawater filled into that system. And this is rather big system. There are 3 estuaries there, and they were filled with water. And this is really positive, because later on we will see some changes in the system, like the changed landscape of the coastline. When it comes to sandy coast, and these overflows are mobile, and such strong storms can change such sandy areas, creating new beaches and destroying others. As for Odesa, it is located in a very positive landscape place. And we are lucky because we were protected by the cliff of the big fountain during the latest storm. And our areas like Peresip, Luzanovka, they were protected by the cape of the big fountain. As for the other parts of the coast, we have the special engineering construction defending our coastline. Thanks to the rector Zelinsky, who worked at the Mechnikov National University. His team started the processes of such phenomena like storms on the coastline, and they created created some engineering facilities to protect the coastline of Odessa from the processes. And as for the beaches, these are engineered constructions that have certain regulation and rules for maintaining. But somehow they are forgotten and neglected. And so the sand that is brought back to the sea should be taken from there and put on the coastline. And the storm again just destroyed a lot of beaches, taking sand to the sea, but that was further from the city.
Олександре, скажіть, може є якась статистика просто для розуміння, скільки людей брало участь у ліквідації негоди? Я розумію,
And how many people were involved in dealing with the consequences of the bad weather?
Працівники ДСНС, Нацгвардія, військові, прикордонники тільки сьогодні вранці.
And know that the army, the state bodyguard service were involved in the dealing with the consequences. How many people and how many pieces of the equipment were involved in this process? Whether it's the road service of the Odesa region or where some private operators were involved. And our service was involved in dealing with the consequences of this snowy weather. More than 500 pieces of equipment were involved in the process. And 1,973 persons were involved in these activities from different units of our services, from the reconstruction and recovery service to the infrastructure development service of the Odesa region. There were a lot of representatives of the national police. From our service of the main directorate of the state emergency service in the Odesa Oblast, and the 41 bodyguard officers were involved, 84 pieces of equipment and 703 persons from the national police, 26 pieces of equipment and 76 persons from the National Guard, from the third special center of the emergency response, 5 pieces of equipment and 11 persons for M05 part of road. A lot of there was clarified releasing vehicles from the operative command south, and the APC with 18 persons was involved. And a lot of volunteers that it's difficult to calculate, but we think everyone who were involved in providing support, and also people who were stuck in their private vehicles addressed to the closest settlements, and they were supported there by locals. So every house near the road supported such people. I'd like to ask about trees that fell down. That will be the question about the city of Vladyslav. Do you have any information about the whole region? And do you know the consequences? 53 times the units dealing with the fallen trees were involved in the process, and also the trees fell down on the power supply, chains, and for example, that was one of that fell down in the Kuyalnitsky estuary, and we are supporting the tech to take it from there. And the divers are involved in any time if there is access to the water. And I thought that perhaps estuary expanded because of the river. No, this is just the procedure. We should involve professionals, divers, to deal with such issues. And we also support other services. For example, you know that the heating system tower was destroyed. That electric grid, we saw the picture. This is the one I'm talking about near Kuyalnitsky Liman. And just drove just through the center of the city. A lot of trees fell down, like acacia, and these are all trees. How would you assess the losses of trees in the city and the types of the trees? And most trees fell down with roots. And before that, it was raining for quite a long time, and the soil became softer. And when it is windy, that leads to the liquefied soil. And it is difficult to anticipate what trees can fall down in such conditions. But these are not that many trees if we take into consideration the speed of the wind. But I should also say that was the snow on trees, like sticking snow, and we know that they were there was no temperature below zero, and a lot of trees, a lot of leaves are still on trees. That's why a lot of big branches were destroyed, but not trees. Every time a lot of trees fall down during hurricane. This time the amount could reach around 100 plus trees. And as for the types of trees, I'm not sure that this is acacia. But these trees are really old. They have almost reached the limit. And we have a lot of such trees. And if we look, for example, at Kanatna Street, we can see different types of trees there, like poplar, like ashes. And we can say that ashes is one of the most strong trees for such weather conditions. We've received a question online, and perhaps the person missed the information at the moment. Just to clarify, are all 15 people were injured by fallen trees? No, there are different types of injuries because of hypothermia. And how many people were injured by fallen trees? Around 10? No, we don't have the specific statistics. This is the medicine of catastrophes that has such statistics. Let's come back to trees. Up to 200 trees, not only acacia, but other types of trees. Yes. You've been dealing with supporting trees found in Odesa. Could anything have been done to decrease the number of fallen trees? And the second question, is it possible to plant now new trees instead of the fallen one? And this we also wanted to find the representatives of local authorities, but they did not come. I cannot say that nothing had been done before the storm, because if such a storm was in the end of 1990s, almost the whole of the city would have been covered by trees. A lot of trees have their canopies formed, but sometimes it is not done properly because these are plants and different types of trees, and they require their own canopies. As for planting, there are some problems with this, because as I've already mentioned, lately we can see significant climate changes, like iodization. It means that the climate becomes drier, and if we have some precipitation, then usually these are heavy rains. When, for example, for one day we can have the norm of precipitation of rain for several months, and liquid moisture cannot be accumulated by the soil. That's why we need to reconsider how we care about the trees in the city. We need to opt for other types, and we need to select trees with not that scaly canopy to avoid fallen trees in the future. Alexander, what is the situation at the moment? Do you continue just dealing with the consequences of the bad weather, or have you completed these operations? DTEC still works to renew power supply because more than 200 settlements in the territory of the Odesa region are still facing outages, and this is almost the fourth day, and we still receive some requests just to help with evacuating vehicles that are near roads, do you expect any more hurricane storms in the nearest future to complete works? We hope that yes, but every day we receive forecasts like it was that night about heavy winds and heavy rains. This night, the upcoming night, no, this night, the previous one. But I would like to assure everyone and to emphasize that people should follow the news, because all such situations are anticipated, but people should not neglect security warnings. Thank you. We will stop here. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for the information about ecology. It's great to hear that at least some parts of environmental issues have been solved by nature by creating such conditions. Thank you. The next briefing will be at noon, and it will be dedicated to the support of people of the Slovak Republic to Ukraine, raising money for military equipment, and we will have with us one of the Slovak volunteers. Please stay tuned.